Hello guys and welcome back to another video. My name is Pips, co-founder of PropsMadness and Pro Sports Better. We went from cooking on the show daily to losing daily. We have 4 straight losing days. Things are not going well, but over the last 2 weeks we lost 12 bets on the hook and won only 2, which is insane variance going against us. Can't do much about it. Last night we had 4 bets. We had an easy winner on AJ Green. Like every hour winner is going easy. He made 6 threes. We bet 3 plus threes. RJ Barrett, I will say this is on me. I was between RJ Barrett and Ingram. Choose wrong. That's on me. But then Tari Eason, blowout loss. And then lastly, Sam Merrill, another hook in a blowout. He hooked without even playing in the fourth quarter. I think that read was great. I also like Tari Eason read and I loved AJ Green, but as I said, AJ Barrett maybe wasn't my best look. So it's tough to do this when things are not going your way, but we can't do much about it. Have a long history of success, so you will just need to ride it out. We have a trade deadline tonight, so can't do much. I think things could be hectic. So I'll just share 3 official bets, which is more than enough for this kind of slate. And my first bet will be my guy going back to Alperen Şengün, but this time we are betting his assists. And we are betting over 5.5 assists at plus money, which is plus 102 or plus 100, widely available. When we take a look at the last 21 games, it doesn't look great. But when we exclude the injury, blowouts, we can see that he covered this line in 61%. But we also need to exclude some games where we're in the overtime. So let's look at the games when he played 32 to 42 minutes this season. And then he had a hot start, but looking at the last 10, he's still averaging 6.4 assists per game, covering in 6 out of 10. And if we take a look at the entire season, we can see that he covered this line in 20 out of 28 games, covering this in 71% of the games. Big 6.8 assist average. And looking at the matchup, it looks great. They allow 10th most assists overall. They allow 19 most to his position. They allow 8 most to his dominant assist zone. And that's the key. He's a dominant assist zone. So when we look how he plays against the teams that are outside of top 10 defense against his dominant assist zone, we can see that he covered this line in 16 out of 19 games, averaging 7 assists a game. And let's now look even further to assist allowed overall. We can see that the under came against the Wolves and against the Pacers. So when we exclude top 10 teams in assist allowed as well, we get that he covered this line in 15 out of 16 games, averaging 7.4 assists per game. So absolutely amazing matchup. Great minutes should be expected, even though it's a back-to-back. My Houston Rockets have been struggling, so they definitely need to find a way to bounce back here. Tough one. So I'm trusting my guy Alperen Şengün to get assists. Also, Hornets have been implementing some crazy defenses like face guarding Steph Curry in the backcourt, then double teaming on Wemby, then defending Towns with a wing, and then putting the Abate on Hart and double teaming. So they could mix up some double teams on Şengün, which will definitely help him get more assists. Also, let's take a look on one key thing, and that's passes made over the last couple of games. And if you take a look over the last 10 games, he is averaging 54 passes made per game compared to the 49 earlier this season. So when we look at over the last 2 seasons, when he got more than 50 passes in a game, we can see that he covered this line in 26 out of 36 games, averaging once a game 7.1 assists. But we also need to take matchup into account. So when he had 50 to 68 passes made in a game, and when he played teams who allow average to above average to his dominant assist zone, we can see that he covered this line in 13 out of the last 15 games, averaging 7.6 assists per game. Also, we can see similar player Jokic had 11 assists against them on 17 potential assists, so that looks great as well. So my first official bet, Alperen Şengün over 5.5 assists at plus money. Also, before we dive into the next bet, just want to address the live stream. Guys, I'll remove it to the next week because I'm still sick, so I don't know how that's gonna look. Now I can cut out and edit stuff where I'm coughing or sneezing, so uh, we'll have that next week. And also the day will be definitely hectic with trade deadline today, so yeah, we are just rescheduling that for the next week. For my second official bet, we are going to price sensible under 22.5 points and rebounds. Also, if you have under 18.5 points, that should work as well, but I prefer under 22.5 points and rebounds. This one is very interesting line, not gonna lie, this looks a bit too high for Bryce. Looking at this season, on the entire season, he's averaging 15 points and rebounds per 22 minutes. But let's take a look at the last game. Last game against the Pacers, Utah had 7 players on the roster and he started from the bench. So he didn't start in a game when they had 7 players. Prior to that game, no Keyonte George, and he still played only 19 minutes against the Raptors. Then against the Nets, 26, Golden State 26, 25 against the Clippers, 23 against Miami. So I kind of see him playing 20 to 30 minutes. So when we look at the expected minutes and when he gets 20 to 30 minutes on the entire season, we can see that he's stayed under this line in 17 out of 23 games, averaging 18.1 points and rebounds. But let's look at the games when Lauri Markkanen played. And in games with Lauri Markkanen, he covered this line in only 2 games, barely covering against the Kings and barely covering against the Clippers. So overall, this looks too high. I know there is no Keyonte George tonight, which is huge, but when we take a look on the games with Lauri Markkanen, without Keyonte, he played 3 games, averaged 13.7 points and rebound, and only 25 minutes. So he played 25 against the Clippers, 19 against the Toronto Raptors, and then last game played 30 minutes, but that was a blowout, so they had only 7 players on the roster, and they rested Lauri Markkanen late into the fourth, and Bryce came in for him. So he was on pace to play 25 minutes in that game when they had 7 players on the roster, and now they probably have Nurkic back. Nurkic back means Kyle Filipovsky will play at the 4 more. They also have Bailey. They also have Svi Mikhailuk. Cody Williams started playing much more lately. So I don't think Bryce Sensabaugh can cover this if he doesn't get more than 30 minutes. So I kind of have him in the range of 18 to 28. And in those minutes, we can see that he stayed under the line in 16 out of 21 games, averaging 16 points and rebounds. So this is definitely a bit too high. If you take a look at the matchup, over the last 15 games, Hawks have 8 best defense. And they are also 8 best against his dominant shooting zone. And if you take a look at transition, spot up, they are above average defending those. So matchup is not great either. So let's also check the scenario when he gets a ton of minutes. And now when we look at the games when he had 28 or more minutes and he averaged 31 minutes per game in those scenarios, he's still under this line in 7 out of 13 games. But let's now include Lauri Markkanen. When we include Lauri Markkanen and him getting big minutes, he still stayed under in 7 out of 8 games, averaging 18.8 points and rebounds. So my second official bet, Bryce Sensabaugh under 22.5 points and rebounds. And my third official bet will be Edge Comp over 13.5 points, widely available at plus 100 to minus 110. So this one is definitely interesting. If you take a look at the last 16 games for Edge Comp, he has been struggling a lot, averaging 12.5 points a game. But if you take a look at the last 12 with Embiid in the lineup, we can see that it goes even worse. 10 points average. So yeah, he's been struggling late, but there is no Paul George now. So when we look at the games with Maxi Embiid without Paul George, he's averaging 14.4 points a game. But here we have one game that was a heavy minutes restriction when he was coming back from the injury. When we exclude that game, we can see that he carried in 5 out of 9 games, averaging 15 points a game. But let's now look at the head-to-head game they played earlier this season, and he had 15 points on horrible shooting. He missed like 3 to 4 transition layups, which is so typical for him because he's such a great athlete. Looking at the matchup, they allow 6 most to his position. They are average to his dominant shooting zone and dominant play type, but looking at second dominant play type transition, they allow 10th most, and they also allow ton of in isolation, ton of at the rim. So yeah, looking at the last 15 games, we can see that they allow even more at the rim and even more in above the break three, which is his dominant shooting zone and second dominant shooting zone. And they also allow average catch and shoot, average pull up. So overall, Lakers have not been great defense lately, especially now Reeves returned. They have Luka Doncic, they have LeBron. Ayton is not doing great lately. So overall, they are not that great of a defense. But one of the main reasons I'm betting this because I rewatched this game when he scored 15 points with Paul George playing, who was forcing stuff early. They kind of tried to take away Maxi and Embiid pick and roll, so they were swarming on Embiid and Maxi, and Edgecomb had so many great looks because of it. And I think we can see that again. That game, Embiid was horrible. Like that was early game back from the injury when he didn't look great, and now he's even a bigger threat. So I think JJ could put some heavy bodies on him. Remember how he defended Jokic, like putting 4 guys on him and leaving everyone else open. Now he has another big threat, which is Maxi. So I could definitely see JJ just focusing on taking away pick and roll from Embiid and Maxi, and that will definitely open a ton of spots for Edgecomb. They traded McCain. Paul George is out, so I could see Edgecomb playing like 36 to 40 minutes tonight, and in those minutes he should definitely cook. If you take a look on the entire season, when he gets 32 plus minutes, he's averaging 16 points a game. So when we look at the games where he got 32 or more minutes and face teams who are below average against his position, he's averaging 17 points a game, covering this in 13 out of 18. And when we look at the games without Paul George, it goes up to 20 points a game. So yeah, this spot is mostly like the hit rates and averages are right there, like 13 to 14 points, but the matchups is absolutely amazing. So that should get him over the line. And now I'll just share one lean that I have from Bulls and Raptors, and that will be Sandro Mamukelashvili, because as we know, Bulls don't have bigs on the team. They traded away Vucevic and they have Jalen Smith playing as a lone big on the team. And when we look at the games when Sandro played expected minutes, which is 21 to 31, but last game he played 32, so maybe including 32 as well. And in that case, we can see that on the entire season, he's averaging 14 points a game, covering in 21 out of 27 games. But let's now include the games with Ingram in, and with Barnes in, and Barrett in. And in that case, he covered in 11 out of 15, averaging a bit less points, but still 13.3. But he's now facing the Bulls. As I said, they are struggling against the bigs, especially today. Everything looks great. They are worst rim defense when he scores most of his points. They are horrible against spot up and catch and shoot. Horrible against pick and roll man. Also similar players killing this line in 10 out of 15, averaging 28% more than their closing lines. Similar player by position, also cooking them lately, averaging 38% more points than their closing lines. So yeah, this is an unbelievable spot for Sandro. And the only reason I'm not betting it because it could be a huge blowout in my opinion. Bulls look horrible. They have only guards on the team, and Raptors are also playing at home. Actually, let's make this fourth official bet because this is a back-to-back game, so we could get someone ruled out, and then this bet gets even better. So yeah, they haven't been on a back-to-back for a long time this season. Like they had 0 back-to-backs in January, so I could definitely see like RJ Barrett recently came back from the injury. He could sit out, and maybe some Brandon Ingram, Scotty Barnes rest day, maybe even quickly. Also trade deadline, so maybe they trade for someone and then he plays even more minutes. So we are making this fourth official bet. So Sandro Mamukelashvili over 11.5 points as our last bet. And that's it, guys. Hopefully we start running better and get some positive hooks